The weather's getting nicer, and many of you may be getting drones to be able to use as you go out. The Mavic Mini is an excellent drone. It's one that I think is easy and accessible for anyone to fly with and anyone to use. With that, I thought it was time for me to put together a quick video with 3 main tips about what to do when you're flying your drone for the first time. So we'll talk about 3 different tips. These are things that I do quite often. There's some of it that I have to do when I'm at home, and then there's a bit of it that I do when I'm actually on site where I want to fly my drone. But I no longer go out and just fly kind of blindly. I want to take some responsibility and some accountability for what I'm doing, so I take a moment to do a little bit of research about where I'm trying to fly. This is becoming more and more important in today's time because more and more places have regulations in terms of where you can and cannot fly. So in order for you to have a nice successful flight, here's 3 tips that I'll recommend that you do each time that you want to fly. So first I want to say that there should be a certain amount of things that you do when you're at home. Before you actually go out and fly somewhere, you want to check the weather. Make sure it's not raining, make sure that it's not going to have any high winds. Secondly, you want to use a tool such as Kitty Hawk and go out and actually see if there's actually any no-fly zones in the area that you want to fly. Is it open for flight, or are there any limitations? In many cases there's some limitations that can pop up when you're not aware of them. So check for a no-fly zone, make sure you can fly, and then go ahead and fly. In terms of tip number 2, this is something that you should be doing when you're actually on the place or on site where you want to fly, is first check the weather speed, check for wind gusts, and then check for the GPS signal. If it's too windy or the conditions are not right, then you may not be able to have a successful flight, and you may have a flyaway, you may have a crash, and so on. The drones behave differently, right? And they may take a longer period of time to slow down if we're flying in an area with a lot of wind or where the conditions are not appropriate for flight. The last one is a tip more around making sure that you don't actually lose your drone. It's when you're actually taking off and flying, you want to fly into the wind first and then fly in the direction of the wind on the way back. And what that will allow you to do is, 1, make sure that you have enough battery on the way back, and you're not using all your battery kind of flying out, because then when you're actually trying to return back to home, your drone won't be able to successfully do that because it will have exerted all of its power and depleted its battery working against the wind. So make sure that you actually fly against the wind at the beginning of your flight, and you fly with the wind on the way back. So hopefully these tips will help you. They'll allow you to be a more successful drone operator. You'll be able to have some good flights and fun flights. So stay safe, make sure you follow directions, and as I said before, do a pre-checklist at home, do a pre-checklist when you're on site, and then lastly, make sure you're flying against the wind to be able to have enough battery to come back. I've been doing these recently. I've been doing them actually from the beginning when I started flying drones, but there's been more and more cases where, because now I have more information in my phone and available to me and accessible to me, where I may plan to go out for a flight, and when I get on site, I do my pre-flight checklist. I see the wind gust is too high, I see that maybe it's too windy, or there might be rain coming, and then I just say I'm going to come back another day. There's no reason to go and lose your drone or damage your equipment when you can always come back the next day. For me, I'm flying for fun. I'm not flying as part of a business. I'm not making money from this. So for me, there's no way to make money, right? Because I'm doing this recreationally. So I would be having a much more harder time replacing my actual drone. And I would feel pretty bad if I actually flew my drone and crashed it. So if you like this, feel free to watch the playlist that I have up, and this way you're supporting me and my channel by watching some additional videos that I've created. Hopefully you like the content, and stay safe, and talk to you next time.